Crypto child fraudster sentenced to 7.5 years in prison for Ponzi scheme. Stefan Chin's investors believed they had stumbled across a sure thing, a hedge fund that was earning 500% profits by leveraging price differentials between cryptocurrencies on 40 global exchanges. Rather than that, the 24-year-old self-proclaimed math genius spent their money on a luxury lifestyle that included a $23,000 per month Manhattan penthouse apartment and failed investments in initial coin offerings and real estate. Federal prosecutors allege that Chin conned over 100 victims of around $90 million. Following comments from several of his victims that Chin should serve as much time as possible in prison for securities fraud, U.S. District Judge Valerie Caproni sentenced him to 7.5 years in prison Wednesday, describing him as a potentially extremely dangerous individual. Chin deliberately and consciously picked a course to defraud investors, Caproni said, fabricating account statements and misleading them about how he was spending their money. White-collar crime has the same terrible effect on victims as other sorts of crime, and it will be harshly punished. Additionally, the judge stated that the penalty was designed to deter others from committing similar crimes and to safeguard the public from Chin, who had little difficulty deceiving his investors. Over a dozen investors had sent letters to the judge, several of whom claimed to have lost their life savings to Chin, an Australian national who dropped out of college in 2017 to create Virgil Sigma Fund LP. According to one woman, she was left homeless and impoverished. Chin told the judge that reading the letters, many of which were from family, friends, or business acquaintances, left him very heartbroken. "I'm embarrassed to face them in the eye and apologize, but I must," he explained. Chin claimed to have created a proprietary trading algorithm called Tenjin that enabled him to benefit by purchasing cryptocurrencies on one exchange and selling them at a greater price on another. He boasted shortly after launching Virgil that the fund had an annual return of 500% in 2017. In 2018, while he was managing $23.5 million, the Wall Street Journal profiled him. By 2020, he would have raised over $90 million. He began the hedge fund in his first year of college, he explained, with an algorithm he believed was an incredible money-making machine. However, things began to deteriorate, and people began to doubt my promises, Chin explained to the judge. Instead of confessing, I did the unthinkable and doubled down on my deceptions, Chin explained. I believed I was the protagonist, that life was a computer game, and that I had just discovered the cheat code to win. As far as we are aware, life is not a video game. Investors began to seek their money back near the end of last year, as losses mounted. According to authorities, Chin attempted to make those payments by raiding another fund he founded, the VQR Multi-Strategy Fund LP. However, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission obtained a hold on VQR's assets from cryptocurrency exchanges in December. Following that, Chin returned to the United States from South Korea, surrendered to authorities in February, and immediately pled guilty. While Chin faced a maximum sentence of 20 years, federal sentencing guidelines call for a sentence of 151 to 188 months. Probation officials suggested 96 months, citing his absence of a criminal record and voluntary return from abroad to face accusations. Prosecutors had argued for significant prison sentence, citing the brazen character of Chin's conduct and the need to deter others from committing similar crimes. Chin utilized that hedge fund as his personal piggy bank, taking investor funds to maintain a lavish lifestyle and frequently misrepresenting to investors about his financial dealings, Assistant United States Attorney Daniel Tracer wrote in a sentencing memo. Defense attorneys requested a sentence of 24 months, stating that Chin accepted responsibility for his conduct and assisted police in recouping some of the stolen funds. One investor wrote to the judge advising him not to be seduced by Chin's personal appeal, a quality that aided him in defrauding so many. Mr. Chin did not take food from a grocery store in order to feed his family, investor Steve Reich stated. He defrauded ordinary folks of almost $90 million and has exhibited no true remorse. A SIM swapper has been charged in connection with a cryptocurrency theft plot. At least 40 people were extorted by a student for money and cryptocurrency. According to a new release from the U.S. Department of Justice on Monday, a University of California San Diego student named Richard Yuan Lee was indicted on August 26 for a SIM swapping scheme that involved stealing phone numbers and accounts and extorting at least 40 people for cryptocurrency and other payments. Lee persuaded Apple customer care in 2018 to give him a new iPhone 8 for one he said was lost in the mail, according to the indictment, PDF. Lee and others then encouraged carriers to port victims' phone numbers to the iPhone 8 in order to gain access to their accounts, and, in some cases, directly deplete their cryptocurrency wallets. Lee and his co-conspirators contacted victims and demanded payment of ransoms in order to avert future harm, including as new account hacks, the loss of additional cryptocurrency, and the exposure of victims' sensitive information, the DOJ adds. If Lee is convicted of all charges, which include wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and conspiracy to engage in interstate communication with the intent to extort and commit computer fraud and abuse, he faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000. SIM switching is the act of assuming another person's phone number in order to steal their identity. Typically, unknowing victims' phone numbers are moved to burner phones, frequently by requesting it from carriers, and then scammers use those phones to impersonate the victim and take control of their internet accounts. Lee's story serves as a sobering reminder of how prevalent SIM shifting is. It even happened to Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey in 2019. The fact that phone numbers are a critical component of identity theft has a lot to do with the way two-factor authentication is typically configured. By default, many online services offer two-factor verification, but the second means of identification is via a cell phone. With stolen phone numbers, this can quickly become a springboard for gaining access to someone's account. According to Peter McCormack, Bitcoin is the most important technology. Few individuals have had a greater impact on the public Bitcoin sector than Peter McCormack, a veteran of the crypto markets and host of the popular What Bitcoin Did podcast. As is the case with the majority of early cryptocurrency users, the allure of Bitcoin began when McCormack learned the commodity could be used to swap goods and services on the dark web, and there has been no going back since. However, McCormack, who worked in fields such as advertising and sports marketing before falling down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, did not have it all laid out for him. McCormack reminisced in a podcast today with Alex Faisal of crypto edutainment channel Kryptonites about the numerous moments in his life that shaped him into the person he is today, such as going from near bankrupt to meeting the president of Bitcoin-friendly El Salvador while wearing a Metallica t-shirt. Additionally, there are equal amounts of humor and technical discussion on Bitcoin, as well as predictions about where McCormack sees the broader ecosystem heading in the coming years. This is an episode you do not want to miss, but in the meanwhile, here are some memorable quotes from the two-part show. On what makes Bitcoin so stunning. It's very easy. It's essentially a ledger that keeps track of who owns what. It's essentially order. That is the beauty of it. Just like everything else, it has a plethora of rules governing who can perform the banking. You may use it only once. A single day. Alternatively, if you send a payment, you will get it at this time. It's as if there are a million different regulations. No, you cannot do this. We live in a society where the government constantly creates new FG laws, they get bigger and bigger, and there are more rules. And then there's this thing that they're powerless to do anything about. For example, if I want to send you some Bitcoin, you get it. And if I want to send it to someone in Iran, I can do it as well. And if I want to give something to someone, if someone in Iran or in us wants to send something to North Korea, nobody can stop them. And it is lovely because it offers up a world of possibilities. On the asset's brevity. One of Bitcoin's greatest virtues is its simplicity. Everything else is also extremely complicated, almost as complicated as a theorem is to me. Bitcoin is deceptively simple, it is merely a ledger. And it must excel at a few tasks. One is that it must be as decentralized as possible, which he accomplishes admirably. And it must do so in order to preserve resistance to censorship. And secondly, it must enforce the strict cap of 21 million, or else everything else is nonsense. It's simply exquisitely simple. However, what do you gain as a result of this? You enable people to send money to those in need, you enable a country to defend itself against the US dollar like El Salvador, you enable businesses and individuals to protect themselves against currency debasement, and you enable people to save. Additionally, Bitcoin does alter your mindset. Thus, those who listen to you are also watching your broadcast. They might not be Bitcoin enthusiasts. However, I can assure you that everyone I know has entered it. They've altered their lives, their attitudes on family, eating, exercise, and consumption. And it's quite lovely. And it is nothing more than a ledger. It's astounding. And it's a ledger that has the potential to actually change the world again. I realize it sounds bombastic, but it is. Regarding Bitcoin detractors such as Peter Schiff, all of these F-curs are constantly mocking Bitcoin on Twitter. I believe you can critique the volatility, and I am aware that we have an explanation for everything. However, while we can pardon volatility, we must acknowledge that it makes cryptocurrency a problematic savings technology or means of trade for certain people. I acknowledge your right to critique that. However, when you assert that Bitcoin has failed or that it has no application, you are either lying or intellectually dishonest. I even tweeted, "Okay, if Bitcoin has no use case, could you please explain how you can move money from any country in the world to any other country in the world? Instantaneous and nearly cost-free? Simply explain how you intend to accomplish that. Kindly inform me, honestly, if you are able to do so, that I am with you. And how am I to send money to a protester in Nigeria? When are they deactivated in the financial system? Simply inform me that I am capable of doing so. And you certainly can. And no one asserts that you can. That is, you already have the ability to say, I could accomplish that with a theory since it is another crypto, correct? Strictly speaking, if we use Bitcoin as the kingpin for cryptocurrency, there is nothing we can do better, cheaper, or faster. Additionally, liquidity exists in every country on Earth. Thus, those individuals are actually fighting for human liberty. Because these use cases are remittances, which increase the amount of money available to individuals in need, and remittances. Typically, individuals transfer money to friends, family, or the destitute. That is the purpose of remittances for us. Individuals in El Salvador and us send it to their families in El Salvador, who are in need of food or shelter. Bitcoin can now be purchased practically anywhere, from ATMs to drugstores. Mike Scanlon, a former Tufts Health Plan information security specialist, discovered Bitcoin in 2014. "Oh my gosh, this is the future of finance," he concluded. Scanlon then attempted to purchase some. "It was the worst time of my life," Scanlon recounted. "I tried for a week and a half to get Bitcoin." This convinced him that he could make a lot of money by providing a more convenient way to buy the goods. Scanlon is now the Chief Technical Officer at CoinMover, a Lynn-based business that manufactures Bitcoin ATMs, which are essentially vending devices that trade digital currency. Today, his company's machines may be found at retail stores in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Washington state, with each selling an average of $40,000 in cryptocurrency each month. That is less than the cost of one Bitcoin, which has recently fluctuated between $44,000 and $52,000. Scanlon, on the other hand, is just getting warmed up. Before the end of the year, he hopes to have 1,250 machines in 18 states. There is a statewide boom in more convenient ways to purchase cryptocurrencies, with Bitcoin ATMs leading the way. According to the industry tracking website Coin ATM Radar, there were approximately 6,000 such machines in the United States at this time last year, but there are now over 26,000, with hundreds more being installed every week. And that only includes pure Bitcoin ATMs, which sell cryptocurrency solely. Thousands of standard cash dispensing ATMs have also been converted to accept cryptocurrency purchases. Then there's Coinstar, the company that manufactures the coin counting machines found in many US supermarkets. Approximately 7,500 of these machines now sell Bitcoin, with a total of 10,000 projected by the end of the year. Researchers at a different site, How Many Bitcoin ATMs, have added these hybrid machines to the mix, estimating that there are over 42,000 Bitcoin vending machines in the United States now. The majority of sophisticated cryptocurrency users purchase their coins online, via websites or smartphone apps. However, the proliferation of Bitcoin ATMs makes it simple for first-time purchasers to enter the market. NCR, a financial technology behemoth, has jumped into the fray. NCR purchased LibertyX, one of the earliest Bitcoin ATM firms, based in Boston, earlier this month. LibertyX now primarily develops software to provide cryptocurrency vending capabilities to traditional ATMs and retail point-of-sale systems, the current equivalent of cash registers. NCR is a global leader in ATM and point-of-sale device manufacturing. The LibertyX acquisition entails more than just the addition of thousands of cryptocurrency-capable ATMs. It may also imply that cryptocurrency will be sold in hundreds of retail outlets, much like candy bars. It is currently taking place. LibertyX has agreements with CVS, Rite Aid, and 7-Eleven to allow Bitcoin purchases at specific locations. A buyer enters the amount he or she wishes to buy into a LibertyX smartphone app, up to $500 each day. On the phone's display, a barcode displays. The customer passes over the cash as a clerk reads the barcode. It is instantaneously credited to the customer's Bitcoin account, less a transaction fee of $4.95. This service, according to LibertyX, is currently available at over 20,000 retail locations. However, many retailers are not aware of this. The Globe contacted 4 CVS locations, all of which stated that they had no knowledge of Bitcoin sales. That appears to be a cashier knowledge issue, said LibertyX co-founder Chris Yim, adding, "We have a lot of volume in Massachusetts." To buy Bitcoin in a retail store, the buyer must first download the Liberty X app and enter detailed personal information, such as source of income and place of employment. This information is necessary by federal banking regulators in order to prevent criminals from utilizing Bitcoin to launder illicit funds. It takes many days for the information to be confirmed and for the user to be cleared to purchase Bitcoin at a retail store. However, by merely entering a name, email address, and phone number at one of CoinMover's ATMs, anyone can instantaneously acquire up to $2,500 in Bitcoin per day. Those who wish to purchase in higher quantities must offer more thorough information and wait several days for clearance. A CoinMover machine sells cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin, including Ether, Litecoin, and Dogecoin. On their smartphone, the customer installs a crypto wallet app that displays a QR code. They then place the phone screen towards the ATM scanner and insert the necessary amount of money. The ATM scans the wallet code from the phone and deposits the appropriate amount of digital currency into it. It only takes a minute, but it is quite expensive. A Bitcoin ATM transaction charge fluctuates between $2.95 and $5.95. In addition, the buyer pays a 10% to 15% premium over the market rate for the currency. For example, a recent $20 Bitcoin purchase resulted in only $12.36 in currency after fees and markup. So, who would be the target audience for these machines? Anyone with a standard bank account can use smartphone apps to buy cryptocurrency at a reasonable cost. For example, using a debit card and a service called Cash App, you can buy $20 of Bitcoin for just 45 cents. Other personal financial apps, such as PayPal and Robinhood, provide low-cost crypto trading as well. Bitcoin ATMs, according to Francisco J. Alvarez Evangelista, a financial expert at Archer Novarica Group, may make sense for people in developing nations who have restricted access to banks. However, he admits that the United States is a difficult market to enter because there are so many simpler ways to purchase and sell Bitcoin. Nonetheless, the machines may appeal to U.S. crypto investors who are obsessed with privacy, as well as to anyone searching for a quick and easy way to move money abroad. After purchasing Bitcoin from an ATM, a person can instantaneously transfer the money to a relative's Bitcoin address located anywhere in the world. Even with all of the expenses, Scanlon claims that we are cheaper than Western Union in certain places. Furthermore, Bitcoin purchased through a bank cannot be utilized until the transaction has cleared completely, which might take several days. You get your cryptocurrency right away with these machines, Scanlon explained. That's why consumers are willing to pay a higher price. According to a University of Chicago poll, 13% of U.S. adults purchased or sold Bitcoin in the previous year. That translates to over 33 million individuals. How many more will join when thousands of retail outlets and ATMs convert to Bitcoin trading platforms? We'll find out soon. All crypto-related activities are prohibited, Nepal's central bank reiterates. The Nepal Rastra Bank maintains the Nepalese government's stance on the use of virtual currencies, stating that such use is prohibited in the country, regardless of whether it entails trading cryptocurrencies or mining any form or type of cryptocurrency. The bank also advises that there is a legislation in the country that clearly prohibits the use of cryptocurrencies, and anyone found in violation of the law would face severe penalties, including heavy fines and even jail time. Nepal Rastra Bank, NRB, is the country's official central bank. Similarly to the rest of the globe, cryptocurrency has found its way into the Nepalese financial system. However, before it could establish deep roots in the country, the government and the NRB both intervened and stopped it. The Nepalese government completely supported NRB in its efforts to prevent crypto from taking root in the country. As a result, in the year 2019, a law known as the Foreign Exchange Act of Nepal was enacted. The government has placed a prohibition on the usage of cryptocurrencies in the country under the Foreign Exchange Act. The law makes it illegal to engage in any cryptocurrency-related activity. The regulation goes on to state that the use of cryptocurrencies for trading as well as mining is likewise prohibited. There are no exceptions for anyone in the country who can utilize virtual currencies directly or indirectly, locally or globally. However, the NRB has discovered that there is a thriving black crypto market in the country. This so-called market allows Nepalese to engage in the particularly prohibited activities of cryptocurrency mining and trading. After learning about this, the NRB issued a warning to the general public on its official website. The warning states that the NRB would like to restate the government's and its own stance against the use of cryptocurrency. Crypto mining and trading are prohibited under the Foreign Exchange Act. Anyone discovered in violation of this prohibition would face legal consequences. The violation will not go unpunished, and the culprit will be fined heavily. In the worst-case scenario, the person who violated the law would pay the fine as well as serve jail time. The NRB further warned that certain persons in Nepal are attempting to persuade others to participate in these illicit operations. However, if they are apprehended, the NRB will ensure that stern legal action is taken against them. Meanwhile, Nepalese media is promoting the use of cryptocurrency. They argue that the government's stance on cryptocurrencies should be reconsidered. People want to invest in Bitcoin but are unable to do so due to the restriction, according to Nepalese media. Protesters set fire to a Bitcoin ATM as part of an anti-El Salvador presidency demonstration. The Chivo machine was damaged with anti-BTC emblems and a banner declaring that democracy is not for sale. Bitcoin opponents and those protesting President Nayib Bukele's policies in El Salvador have demolished a cryptocurrency shop in the country's major city. Teleprensa and other news organizations shared videos on social media on Wednesday of a Chivo-supported shop in San Salvador catching fire amid a mob of journalists and demonstrators. The Bitcoin (BTC) machine, one of several set up by the El Salvadorian government in the aftermath of the country's acceptance of the cryptocurrency as legal cash, was damaged with anti-BTC logos and a placard reading "Democracy is not for sale." Mayor Mario Duran of San Salvador stated that city employees had evacuated the area following threats, but would return later this afternoon. At the time of publication, the damage appears to have been limited to the Chivo machine in the capital city's Plaza Gerardo Barrios, but demonstrators apparently also set fire to furniture from one of the plaza's shops. The Chivo kiosk, which operates similarly to a Bitcoin ATM, is one of approximately 200 throughout El Salvador as part of the government's deployment of BTC as legal cash alongside the US dollar. President Bukele has stated that he intends to see cryptocurrency ATMs installed everywhere in the country, but has stated that no one will be forced to use Bitcoin. Even before the Bitcoin law took effect on September 7, El Salvador encountered opposition to the legislation's apparent radicalism. In July, protesters dubbed the Popular Resistance and Rebellion Bloc marched through the streets of the capital city, while the following month, a group of retirees, veterans, disability pensioners, and other workers organized their own rally. On the same day that the country's Bitcoin law took effect, the price of the digital asset fell below $43,000, causing Bukele to declare that he had purchased the drop by purchasing an extra 150 BTC. The BTC price was $47,978 at the time of publication, up more than 3% in the last 24 hours. Which is better, gold or cryptocurrency? Both, Cramer asserts. Gold has been the bedrock of financial civilization for millennia. Could this be changing, though, with the introduction of cryptocurrencies? Mark Bristow, president and CEO of gold mining company Barrick Gold, recently told Jim Cramer on Mad Money that gold remains as strong as ever, despite the advent of alternative monetary systems, most recently including cryptocurrency. Bristow highlighted Barrick's recent discovery of new potential in Nevada as massive. Nevada's returns will be huge, he told Cramer. When asked which asset class he prefers, Bristow stated that gold is the only method to truly hedge one's risks. Bitcoin's value fluctuates as frequently as it increases, he explained, leaving gold as the sole stable store of wealth. Cramer later chimed in on the discussion about whether it is better to hold gold or cryptocurrency in a no-huddle offense segment. According to Cramer, the question is not even a discussion in many aspects. Gold and cryptocurrency, he maintained, are not in competition with one another. Gold, he explained, is an inflation hedge. It has a long track record, and supplies grow at a 1% annual rate, which keeps pricing boring and stable. On the other side, Bitcoin and its competitors are a speculative investment, one that is thrilling and volatile, with no track record whatsoever. Which one is the finest to own? Cramer stated that both can be used to diversify a portfolio, with gold used for insurance and cryptocurrency used for speculation. A New York court orders the closure of cryptocurrency platform Coinseed. Prosecutors charged the company with defrauding thousands of investors. According to State Attorney General Letitia James, New York officials obtained a court order shutting down cryptocurrency trading site Coinseed after it allegedly scammed thousands of investors of millions of dollars. The court granted Coinseed and its creator and CEO, Deldadala Devasambu, a $3 million judgment. According to some financial experts, these Ponzi scheme-like activities may continue in the absence of generally agreed-upon legislation that strengthen investor protections against fraud. Prosecutors in New York allege that Coinseed's mobile application, which was available on the App Store and Google Play Store, illegally marketed stocks, operated improperly as a broker-dealer, and traded in investors' accounts without their consent, even limiting account access. Officials claim the activity continued even after Coinseed was sued by James's office in February for allegedly breaching the state's powerful Martin Act, an anti-fraud statute that allows the state attorney general broad authority to prosecute securities fraud investigations. Prosecutors allege that Coinseed, which built its network to between 4,000 and 5,000 investors, improperly invested client cash in the digital currency Dogecoin, resulting in investor losses within hours. The Attorney General's office in New York declined to speak further. Coinseed's initial attorney of record, Jason Gottlieb of the firm Morrison Cohen LLP, has informed Information Security Group that his firm has withdrawn from the matter following the grant of a motion to withdraw. Given how hot crypto assets continue to be, Carl Steinkamp, director of PCI Product and Quality Assurance at security firm Coalfire, tells ISMG, "I would anticipate we will continue to see more of these events." Order of the court. Following a preliminary injunction granted in June, The court ruling, delivered September 9 by New York State Supreme Court Justice Andrew Borek, appoints a permanent receiver to process investors' funds and permanently halts activities. In February, James's office sued the platform, Devasambu, and former Chief Financial Officer Sukhbatal Khagvadorj. According to James, Coinseed continued its deception and engaged in additional fraudulent behavior in the months that followed, including introducing a new virtual currency. For years, Coinseed and its CEO have engaged in outrageous and dishonest conduct that has defrauded investors of millions, James asserts. Contrary to court rulings, this organization has continued to operate unlawfully and unethically, seizing clients' assets and highlighting the risks associated with investing in unregistered virtual currency. Coinseed activity. According to New York officials, the company issued securities in 2017 through an initial coin offering, or ICO, which allowed investors to purchase Coinseed tokens. As a result, the company should have registered as a broker-dealer. Additionally, state prosecutors charged Devasambu with faking his experience in order to promote the platform. Additionally, James said in a May court filing, the defendants transferred all investors' holdings into a single, extremely volatile virtual currency, dubbed Dogecoin, whose price fluctuates substantially in a matter of hours. Brian Whitehurst and Amita Singh, State Assistant Attorneys General, report that their office has received more than 175 investor complaints. Users claimed in court filings that they were unable to withdraw their Coinseed payments, even when they owned assets over $100,000. Several investors stated that they lost tens of thousands of dollars overnight as a result of illicit trading. Prosecutors say the receiver will now acquire, preserve, and refund all assets invested and transacted through Coinseed. Initial reaction. According to CoinDesk, Devasambu reportedly described James's legal action as immensely sorrowful and infuriating in June, despite refuting the charges. According to reports, the CEO encouraged users to annoy James's office and announced that the site will provide a free token called FLJ, an acronym for nasty language directed at the state's lead attorney. According to CBS News, the Coinseed CEO also reportedly referred to James as a business abuser and blamed New York's cryptocurrency rules for his company facing legal action. My office will not hesitate to protect investors' wallets against all those who aim to swindle them, James stated earlier this year. Coinseed was also sued by the Securities and Exchange Commission in a parallel action, alleging that it neglected to file a registration statement or get an exemption for the ICO between 2017 and 2018. Is this one of the most heinous cases? According to Steinkamp of Coalfire, Coinseed's operations resemble those of the recently defunct platform BitConnect, which the SEC charged with defrauding investors of $2 billion. As yet another Ponzi fraud, Steinkamp continues, investors were guaranteed a percentage of Coinseed revenues related with bringing new users to the site and with their digital asset purchases. Michael Fasanello, who has worked in various capacities within the United States Departments of Justice and Treasury, including at Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, says, this is one of the most egregious cases to date, because the defendants were already under investigation by the New York Attorney General and had received a court injunction when they disregarded those sanctions. Fasanello, who is presently the Director of Training and Regulatory Relations at Blockchain Intelligence Group, notes that the Coinseed incident demonstrates the significant risk connected with the governing parties of the platforms or exchanges on which these assets are held. The rumors of insider trading at OpenSea are genuine. According to a startup statement recently valued at $1.5 billion, rumors of insider trading on the NFT platform OpenSea are real. I discovered yesterday that one of our workers purchased an item that we anticipated would be on the main page prior to its public release, the business noted in a blog post Wednesday. The letter did not name the employee, but on Tuesday night, OpenSea product manager Nate Chastain accelerated sales on the site by using a hidden crypto wallet provided by Twitter user @ZuWuTV. Was charged with a collection of posts according to Twitter users who track transaction receipts via the public blockchain. Chastain purchases an NFT shortly before OpenSea publishes its work on the front page of its website and then sells it following a price spike. It is reported to have been shown the subject of the main page's list. The startup described the issue as very disheartening and stated that it is conducting a rapid and thorough examination. OpenSea declined to confirm the employee's identity to CNBC at this time, but a representative stated, "We will notify everyone once the internal inquiry is complete." Chastain's public LinkedIn profiles have been marked as inactive. 8BTC, a Chinese blockchain and cryptocurrency news platform, keeps track of sales. It is purportedly connected to Chastain and his front-running scam, with a target profit of 18.875 ethers, or around $67,000 at today's market. CNBC has not independently verified this figure, and OpenSea has told CNBC that it does not disclose the extent to which employees have profited from the plan. According to Dune Analytics, OpenSea's transaction volume reached a record $3.4 billion last month. Despite the platform's billions of dollars in Ether trading volume, startups appear to have been somewhat tardy in limiting workers' ability to participate in NFTs using privileged knowledge. However, that is changing as of today. The company restricts members of the OpenSea team from purchasing or selling from collections or creators while the company is featuring or promoting them, and prohibits workers from purchasing or selling using sensitive information. He stated that he adopted 2 new staff policies, which included the following: all NFTs, regardless of whether they are offered on the OpenSea platform. The entirety of the episode demonstrates a pervasive regulatory void in the broader crypto economy. NFTs, in particular, are in a legal limbo. Insider trading with NFTs does not appear to be unlawful, as they are not considered securities and there are few precedents for digital assets in general. According to Boaz Sobrado, a fintech data researcher based in London, the OpenSea affair indicates 2 things. Due to the fact that all transactions on the blockchain are public and permanently recorded, blockchain transparency is an extremely effective tool for detecting fraudulent conduct. I'm doing a great deal with that information. While there is considerable disagreement about regulation at the moment, many of these offenders are clearly violating the law. Regulators take action against these types of fraudulent and deceptive statements. There is no reason to extend this authority. Sobrad clarified. Regulators are not looking at the awards, and I believe the majority of people are avoiding them, Sobrad concluded. Finally, Sobrado is considering this demonstrates that money has gotten quite loose, scammers have grown extremely bold, and participants are ignoring the simplest procedures to protect their trucks. This also demonstrates the level of frustration that exists in this area at the moment. It's going great, and everyone feels wealthy, yet the market is hardly discussed. Once the downturn begins, many of these individuals will be exposed, and many will get enraged. We hope you enjoyed watching and listening to this video. Please let us know your opinion in the comments area below. If you found our content useful, please like it and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for more crypto-related contents.